Sham Sundar Giridhari Ju Ki Jai. Jam Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jam Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. So welcome everyone, our regular Sunday broadcast from the East London branch, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math. We are currently discussing the seminal books of His Divine Grace Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj, founder Acharya of our mission. And currently we are discussing the Golden Volcano of Divine Love, which of all of the books published of Guru Maharaj's talks, he considers his favorite book. So, last week we discussed Trinadapi Sunichena, and this week we are discussing the fourth verse of Shikastakam. Hare Krishna. And this chapter is entitled Unalloyed Devotion. And the verse is Na danam na janam na sundarim Kavitam ba jagadisha kamaye Mamma janmani janmanishware Bhavatad bhaktir ahoituki toyi. O Lord, I have no desires to accumulate wealth, followers, beautiful women, or salvation. My only prayer is for your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. So, this is the attainment, you can say, of devotion proper, this sentiment. Previous verse we were discussing like how it is that we can properly practice sadhana bhakti, Krishna consciousness, how actually the holy name will manifest itself in our heart by the sadhana, the practice of humility, tolerance, and giving honor to all, and not expecting any honor or prestige for ourselves. Now we're seeing in this verse the sentiment and spiritual sentiment, not the mundane sentiment, of one who has actually attained that grace. This is the illumination by our Guru Maharaj, Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj. We should try to move in this direction. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, I don't want any money, nadanam. I don't want any popularity or manpower, najanam. I don't want the company of beautiful ladies, nashundarim. I don't want a good name or the fame of a poet, kavitamba. This is the general meaning of this verse, but it has been deeply dealt with in the commentaries of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Our Guru Maharaj has commented that in this verse, wealth, followers, women, and scholarship represent duty, wealth, sense pleasure, and salvation, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has explained that in this context, wealth means the wealth which comes from following one's prescribed duties. It can also mean artha, or economic development. He says that followers means physical relationship for comforts, wife, children, and so forth. The word sundarim means kama, the company of beautiful ladies. And kavitam, poetry, represents moksha, or liberation. Liberation apparently has a high value, but really, like poetry, it is only flowery words. Liberation is imaginary, because the ultimate result of liberation is that one's existence vanishes. Excuse me. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, O Lord of the universe, I only pray for spontaneous devotion to you. Without motive for any reward, I want a natural serving attitude. Prema means affection, love. Prema means I shall serve you, and in remuneration, you must give me more of a tendency to serve you, more energy and more hankering to serve you. My affection for you will be enhanced, and the interest will become capital, just as in the money-lending business. In this way, a devotee prays to Krishna, I am serving you, and if you want to pay me something, then give me more capital to increase my serving tendency, so it may be more enhanced. Wherever I am born according to my karma, I aspire only for your service, my Lord. And I pray for unmotivated service, not for anything else in return. The general temptation that surrounds us on four sides is of four classes. Money, followers, women, and liberation. And that means dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. In this way, the gradations of different goals of life have been scientifically represented. So these things, dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, that's the result of religion, actually. But Mahaprabhu, what Mahaprabhu has come to give is more than religion. Every religion is teaching that. Do your dharma, do your duty. Be a religious person, God will be happy with you and he will give reward to you. And that reward means artha. Artha means economic development, prosperity. You see it on the back of buses. You're going, come to our church, become a winner, the winner's church. This is they're promising you that. But if you join our church, come to our church, you'll get everything that you desire. So all religion is touting that. Come and be with us, you'll get everything you desire. And even sometimes the devotees are to pull people in will say that, We hear that right in the time of Srila Prabhupada. Chant Hare Krishna, stay high forever, and they say, right? Everyone wants to be high. If you chant Hare Krishna, don't need to take any drugs, you just be high forever. But, the reality is something else. So, and even in the scripture, there's that's given there. This whole, if you give one pice to Krishna, it'll come back to you like 100-fold, like that, So this way, and many, you go to many temples, even Vaishnava temples in India, and they'll say, if you offer your weight in, fruit or flowers or gold or cloth, then you'll get some great reward. And that reward is usually some material thing, You'll get wealth, you'll get a good wife, you'll get whatever it is that you're desiring. So, but these things are kind of tricks to get us to come in, so that, now Krishna's got us, and once Krishna has us, then we see, it's not about that at all. It's about something else, something deeper. And that's what Mahaprabhu has come to give. And in this verse, he's rejecting those things as being, saying, I don't want any of those things. All I want is devotional service to you. So not devotional service in an expectation of some reward, but devotional service with the expectation of more devotional service. I was reading in the first, the Gaudiya Math's main publication that they had in English, which is called Sri Krishna Chaitanya by Professor Nishikanta Sanyal. And he says that when Mahaprabhu would go, and leaving his wife for some business or something, he said he would tell her that serve Sachi Devi, and if there's no service to Sachi Devi, serve Tulsi Devi, in this way, like giving some different recommendations to her, like order to her. And Professor Sanyal, he writes, some people may say that he was like a slave driver, like always telling, do this to his wife and everything. So, but actually that's what we're praying for, is to get the service of Lord Krishna. And Mahaprabhu's teaching that means serve the devotees of Krishna. And so this way, what we're actually aspiring for in devotional life, she had that in reality, meaning Vishnu Priya Devi. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, I have no attraction for any of these things, but only for you, my Lord. I don't even aspire after liberation. I'll not even ask, give me liberation. For being liberated, I will be able to serve you better. That sort of condition must not be must not be placed on divinity. This is the purest of prayers. As I mentioned this recently, how Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, I mean to say, and he's asking us to try and make a new temple in London, to raise money for that and everything. And we were not very good for raising money and these things. It finally came by the will of the Lord. But then my daughter, she says to me, Nadia Rani, she's just a young kid then, and she said to me, but I don't understand what the problem is, right? That if you want to raise, like money to build a temple, just go to Vrindavan and ask one of the Kalpa Vriksha trees to give you the money. They're wish-fulfilling trees, aren't they? Why don't you just do that? And she was serious. I mean, she wasn't being facetious or anything. She was serious. And I said, I gave some reply, and then, anyway, I told Gurudev this, Srila Govinda Maharaj this, and he was enjoying that and smiling, and he said, she's very clever. And he said, what did you reply to her? And I said, my reply was that I can go to the Kalpa Vriksha tree, but because I'm not spiritually pure, they won't listen to my request, Then Gurudev said, yes, that is good answer, but it is not the correct answer. It is not the right answer. And I said, Gurudev, tell me, what is the proper answer? And he said, the proper answer is that all of the divine paraphernalia of the Lord, everything, we are to serve that. We are not to have that serve us. So this is the same idea that Guru Maharaj is saying here, that we won't even say, if you give me liberation, I'll be able to serve you better. So not even that condition. So we could say, what it was for Krishna's service we're asking, to give something for the Lord's service. But no, we are to be the servant, not to expect others, even from the divine side, to give anything for us, for our service. Yeah.
You mentioned about service, but it's like, when I think about it, I sort of think, it's not that we can do more service, but the quality of the service becomes.
Yeah. And generally, when quantity increases, the quality becomes less. That's our experience in this world. And generally, when the quality becomes more, the quantity becomes less. That's why they give such high value on rare things, like jewels, like a diamond. It's very rare to get a pure diamond of such clarity and, everything. So it's given a very high value because of its rarity. But Guru Maharaj says, this is true, but except in the case of Srimati Radharani's serving group. There, the highest quality and also the greatest quantity is possible there, with no diminution from that. But it's true that Guru Maharaj was always in favor of quality rather than quantity. So we're looking to try to increase the quality of what we do in our service to the Lord. But if he gives us capacity, that means we can also increase the quantity of that. But You know, as we get older, we find that our quantity is not so available as maybe it used to be. But so we're praying that the quality may become a little greater by the Lord's grace. We're hoping for that.
Is there any service Lord or Gurudev won't accept?
Well, the definition of service, spiritual service, must be the satisfaction of Sri Guru. So, if it satisfies him, then it can never be rejected by him. But when in our fallen state, sometimes we offer things to Guru that we're thinking is service, but may not be service. You know. So like when sometimes devotees would come to Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, and they'd bring some, prasadam from somewhere and give him the prasadam, thinking, and he would become upset by that. Like, oh, they want to purify me with that by giving that. You understand. So, but sometimes also he would accept, understanding the heart of the person who's giving that. So, although we may not understand properly what is real service, the fact that we will try, but if we understand that real service ultimately means the satisfaction of Guru and Vaishnava, then even before our attempt, we should try to understand from them what it is that they want from us. Like Gurudev used to say, Judamanya Prabhu, he only ever asked me one question, and that was, do you want this or not? And if I said I want it, then he'll do it. If I say I don't want it, then he won't do it. That was his question. Do you want it or not? So this is the perfect question to our spiritual master, to the Vaishnavas, to our guides in spiritual life. Is this desirable by you? Do you want this? And if they say yes, then off we go. Sometimes people would say, I'm doing this project, I'm doing that project, this is my service. But where does that come from? Who gave that service? One god sister, her mother was quite wealthy, and her mother came to meet Guru Maharaj. She was from England. Her mother came to meet Guru Maharaj. Guru Maharaj was very gracious with her. He would invite her, it's his disciple's mother. She's an older lady, not as old as Guru Maharaj, but older lady. And Guru Maharaj very gracious, like my disciple. Mainly, I think, he's thinking, oh, she's coming to check me out. I've become the spiritual master of her daughter. She wants to see, who am I? Naturally, if she cares about her daughter, she wants to see she's not being exploited by some charlatan or, whatever it may be. So she came to see Guru Maharaj. And very graciously, Guru Maharaj would take prasadam with her every day, invite her to take lunch with him every day. He never did that with anyone. He never took prasadam with anyone that I ever saw. Maybe sometime with Jajama Maharaj, but even then, we didn't see that. It was all like in his room. But generally, he took prasadam alone, by himself. But every day with her, and they arranged, on Guru Maharaj's instruction, a plate, a knife, fork, spoon, glass. They weren't expecting her to eat off a banana leaf or, with her hands or anything. All like what Guru Maharaj conceived a proper English person would want to take, and a table, chair, everything. Yeah, and a table and a chair. And Guru Maharaj always took prasadam off a table, but, this is she's taking like that with him, So anyway, so one day they came to talk with Guru Maharaj, the girl. There was actually two sisters. There were two sisters, both disciples of Guru Maharaj. And they came to speak with Guru Maharaj, with the mother and everything. And the mother proposed that she wanted to open a hotel in Sri Lanka, like a vegetarian hotel in Sri Lanka. And Guru Maharaj was very gracious. He said, and this is the phrase that he used, and we heard this many times from him, as you like, so you may do. And generally, if he said that to somebody, it was like a kind of a brush off, you know. Oh, you want to do as you like, you may do, you know, like. But when she came out, she's so happy, his disciple, she's so happy. Oh, Guru Maharaj has given me instruction to open a hotel in Sri Lanka. That's like my service, you know. She's thinking in this way. But really, the Guru Maharaj saying, as you like, you may do. You can do whatever you want, he's saying to them, you know. Yeah, it's up to you. He's not saying this is going to be pleasing to me or this is going to be beneficial for you. No, he's not saying any of that. But sometimes we have some desire to do something and we want to use that in Krishna's service. For example, many years ago, as you probably know, I had a restaurant, vegetarian restaurant. And my idea was that I'd employ devotees there and the profits from the restaurant would come to support the temple. You know, we'd be able to support the temple without everybody having to go out and collect in the pubs and all of those things, you know. But it didn't work out, you know. I mean, most businesses, restaurant businesses, they fail. Ours went for about nearly 3 years. We managed to keep it going for nearly 3 years. But finally, we weren't making enough money even to survive from it. What to speak of give anything to the temple from it. You know, it was taking up an inordinate amount of time. I was there basically 7 days a week. And when Srila Gurudev heard that I was there on Sunday, he said, no, you have to be at the temple on Sunday. So I had to employ Dandakaranya Prabhu to run the restaurant on a Sunday, which he did. So that was more like profit from that had to go to him, and you know. Anyway, after nearly 3 years, it didn't work. We had to close the restaurant, and after closing the restaurant down, I was in Moscow with Srila Gurudev, staying at Bharati Maharaj's house. And he's asking me, like, what's the news in London? And I said, I had to close the restaurant, Maharaj. And he said, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And I, you know, explained why, everything. And then he said, I never wanted you to do that restaurant. And I was like, what? And then he said, no, I never wanted you to do that restaurant. And I said, oh, Maharaj, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you say? I would have, you know, like all those years and energy. And why didn't you just tell me you didn't want me to do it? And he said, you were so enthusiastic about it, I didn't want to disappoint you. I didn't want to how they say, rain on your parade or whatever it is. You know, I didn't want to make you feel discouraged by saying anything. So I let you do it. And then he said, but this is not your dharma. Your dharma is to engage other people to do those things. And you are to represent Guru Maharaj. Okay, so it was a lesson for me, but it was something I had to go through too, you know. So, but I wanted to do that as an offering of service, but I never once asked Gurudev, do you want this or not? Like Judamanya Prabhu. Maybe if I'd done that at the beginning, I may not have had to go through all that. But anyhow, it's, water under the bridge now, as they say, an experience, a life experience and everything. But that was one of the things that I learned from that, is that if we want to satisfy Guru and Vaishnava, just ask them, is this desirable by you or not? Then it'll be service. Otherwise, it just may be something else entirely, And no doubt, we all have to make our way in the world, and that was also part of it. I wanted to do something which I kind of thought was worthwhile and would help the temple and would support me and my family and everything. But there you are. So in a roundabout way, if we want something to be service accepted by our Gurudev, we should right from the start ask him, do you want this or not? Then, if your restaurant works all right, then it could be. Yeah, I'm sure if it had been a big success, that Gurudev would have been happy, and But sometimes we think, we are doing service. Yeah. And we are in that mind that we are doing service. Right. But actually Gurudev doesn't want. Yes. Then what? Exactly. We're wasting our time or what? It may not be waste of time, because, it's all part of your learning
you
process, you know. So yeah, when we make mistakes, we learn from that, and so I wouldn't say that. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, even a bad road can lead to a good road, can be converted into a good road, you know. So there's nothing that, you know, we do in the world that we can say ultimately is a waste of time, because it, as Guru Maharaj teaches us, whatever situation we're in is what's the most important thing for us at that particular time. So, you know, like, but that's not the same as what is actual service to Guru and Krishna, you know. It just may be something that as an individual you have to go through to learn, yeah. Yeah.
And can I ask you a question? Because like, sometimes we may not be in a devotional environment. Can that still be considered where we're supposed to be?
Yeah, of course. Because not, you know, if we believe, or whether we believe it or not, the truth is, not even the blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord. So wherever we are, that's where we're meant to be. And we may not understand why, even, you know. And this is one of the mistakes that we make in our devotional life, or in life, is that we think by changing our circumstances, we can change our karma. You know, people say, oh, you're suffering so much there, so I moved somewhere else, and, you know, to change my life, start again, you know, I went there and I, you know, left everything behind. But, you know, as the saying goes, wherever you go, there you are. You can't leave behind who you are. You're still you, and you're still there. So, and whatever amount of enjoyment or suffering that's due to you, it's going to come, whether you're in London or whether you're in Hawaii or wherever it is you may be. Still the same, it's not going to change. So that's what Saraswat Thakur advises us, that there's nothing you can do to prevent your karma. It's already preordained. What's going to happen to you? How much enjoyment, how much suffering, all of these things. Maybe you can change like how it happens, where it happens. It's still going to happen in the same way. It doesn't change any of that. And he says, and there's nothing you can do to make your karma happen either. So like people saying, you know, like, I work really hard and I'll become a millionaire and do all these things, you know, like, okay, great. But the truth is, that's going to happen to you whatever you do. If that's it, because, you know, people say, oh, like, you know, if you work really hard, you'll get everything. That's not true. Some people work really hard their whole life and get nothing at all. So it's all down to whether that's coming to you or not. So his advice is, don't waste your time on that. Just do what you have to do in this world, but utilize your energy, your time, for the cultivation of your soul, for the awakenment of your spiritual nature, and which means the service of Hari, Guru and Vaishnava. Utilize your time for that, and whatever's meant to come to you is going to come to you.
But
It's a difficult lesson to learn.
Krishna makes it slightly lighter within its limit, you being devotee. But it's going to happen. Like
Yeah.
you said.
Yeah, Guru Maharaj said that we should think like that, you know, when we're in some suffering position. Because Krishna is so merciful, that suffering has been minimized by his grace, you know. Maybe I was destined for something even worse, but by the grace of Krishna, he has made it just some minimal thing, you know. Srila Prabhupada said, a devotee, sometimes he dreams he's being attacked by a tiger. And he said, this may be, Krishna's so merciful that in your life, you were destined to be attacked by a tiger. But because of your connection with Krishna, he's just made that happen in a dream. So, you know, it's not going to happen walking down the street, you know, but otherwise it might have happened. But he's made it like a dream. Oh, you wake up, okay, that's good.
Oh, it was only a dream.
It's just a dream, yeah.
Me, I'm fighting and oh, it's only a dream. Like.
Yeah.
I think the example he used to give was like you pull the plug out the fan.
Yes. So we shouldn't make the mistake of thinking that, you know, that becoming a devotee of Krishna, first of all, like, no, a real devotee never thinks of himself as a devotee of Krishna. We're aspiring to be a devotee of Krishna, but we shouldn't think that because I took initiation, because of this, because of that, now no karma will ever attack me anymore. You know, that's not true.
Like Gurudev says, if you make karma between you and Krishna, I don't come, but
Right.
it will happen. But
Yeah.
be light, relax.
So it is said that, you know, at the time of initiation, Krishna removes the karma of his devotee. But like Dwarkesh Prabhu pointed out, it's like pulling the plug out of the fan. The fan doesn't immediately stop. It will rotate for some time. So the effect of that will still be there. But it doesn't mean now that you're, you know, free. As soon as you again engage in karma, reaction will come to you. So, you know, it's like if you clear all your credit cards, you got great. I've no debt now, you know. But then you think whoopee, and go down to the, you know, Westfields or whatever with that now clear credit card and spend it up. Then it all starts all over again, doesn't it? You know, so it's not. It's a snapshot, if you like, you know. What we do from now on, that determines what will be the outcome. Not that we've been, you know, suddenly liberated from all of that. It can be if we then 100% give ourselves for the service of Krishna. But who does that? I mean, really, let's be honest. How many of us can say, everything I do, every breath I take, every step I make is only for Krishna? If only that we could say that. So, where are we? According to my karma, I may be bird or beast, here or there, or even in hell. It doesn't matter. My whole aspiration is concentrated on one thing alone. I pray that my attraction for you may never be lost. I pray that may always be enhanced. Bhakti, devotion, is a hoituki, causeless. It is quite natural and has no other aspiration. Someone may say, if interest is always being reinvested as capital, I will never enjoy the profit. But we are interested in enjoyment by self-giving. Let others enjoy at my cost. That is the basis of the highest enjoyment. The devotee thinks, let Krishna enjoy with others, I'll be the scapegoat. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that when a baby has no knowledge and an enemy or a disease comes to attack him, he can't defend himself. In the same way, in the beginning, when one's realization of the holy name is in the childlike stage, then crimes and offenses against the name can prevail. But when one's realization is grown up, no offense can approach him. But so many offenses may come and attack the beginner. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, the holy name is so beautiful, gracious and charming. Let me die along with all the offenses against it, so others may enjoy its nectar. He wants to sacrifice himself, just as in wartime, with bombs under their armpits, the suicide squad would jump into a ship's chimney. The suicide squad began with Japan's campaign against the British, and when Hitler heard of their fearlessness, he said, we have something yet to learn from Japan. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, I want to finish myself along with all the offenses against the name, so that others may enjoy the nectar of the holy name. Vasudev Datta also prayed, give the sins of all souls to me, and throw me into eternal hell, so that they may benefit. Give them love of Krishna. By that highly generous sentiment, he does not die. It is said, die to live. When we have so much appreciation for the Lord that we feel this kind of sentiment, we find a living attainment of higher life. That is the enjoyment we want. The last verse of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Shikastakam will explain this feeling. Another example of this is found when the great sage Narad came to the gopis and asked them for the dust of their lotus feet, for the treatment of Krishna's headache. Here we find self-abnegation to the highest degree, and that is the whole point of devotion. The very life of a devotee is based on sacrifice. As much as there is sacrifice, there is benefit. And sacrifice means die to live. This is the favorite saying of mine. These are Hegel's words, die to live. Krishna is the highest consumer known to the world. We should not hesitate to give ourselves to him. So this is the end of that chapter. We're thinking about this. I've been thinking about this quite a lot recently. That in our attempt for spiritual life, there has to be an element of sacrifice for it to be of any real substance. Not that, we'll serve Krishna as long as everything's nice and convenient and, not too much is expected of me. But to sacrifice ourselves, and Srila Guru Maharaj used to say, sacrifice is joy. And he admired that in others, that tendency to sacrifice themselves for others. And not just for Krishna, but for the ideal that someone thinks that I should sacrifice myself for the benefit of others. This is a very high thing. Generally we are very selfish, self-centered in our approach to everything, including our Krishna consciousness. How will it benefit me? How will it benefit my family? Then my society, then the country, and all these things. This is like step by step. But Srila Prabhupada would say, this is all extended selfishness. So really it's not about what I'll get from it, but how I can contribute to the Lord, to the service of the Lord. Like Guru Maharaj used to quote Kennedy. We were just in Ireland recently, and we went to they have near to where Suvasini and her family live. They have the Kennedy estate, because John Kennedy's family, they're originally from Ireland. So they have this big estate there, the Kennedy estate, which they've given as a place where the public can go. It's like a big park, a really big park with all these different trees and plants and from all over the world. And at there's like a kind of reception area where they have some exhibitions and a cafe and where you go when you arrive. And outside in the courtyard there is like a fountain, and inscribed in the fountain on the front it's in Gaelic, which means in the Irish language, so we can't read that. I can't read that. But round the back of it, the same thing in English. And the quote there is, ask not what your country can do for you, but ask instead, what can I do for my country? And I said to Madhusudana Maharaj, what do you guess this is that it says on here? I said, Guru Maharaj would quote this about Kennedy. And this was the reply, that Guru Maharaj would quote that from Kennedy. Ask not what your country can do for you, but rather ask, what can I do for my country? So in the same vein, don't ask what Krishna can do for you, but rather ask, what can I do for Krishna? And therein lies the very crux of devotion, the devotional ideal. It's the turning point of a sadhaka. We all enter into Krishna consciousness, or the attempt for Krishna consciousness, with some selfish idea. That's because that's who we are. We want to find something that will benefit us. Otherwise, why would we do it? Even Srila Guru Maharaj says in the beginning there is some pain in when we're practicing sadhana, like all these things, rising early in the morning, all these things. We'd rather lie in bed, but we get up early, we do our sadhana, we do all these things. It's a little painful, but Guru Maharaj said, but underlying all of that, the prospect of joy is there. Otherwise, why would we do it if there was no prospect of joy at the end of all of that? So we're all like that. We're all like that. When we come to Krishna consciousness, our first criteria is this going to be beneficial to me? This chanting Hare Krishna, all these things that go along with that. Yet you weigh it up. Is it going to be beneficial? Okay, so we have to give up meat eating, intoxication, fornication, and gambling, all these kinds of things that most people consider to be, like the spice of life, isn't it? Like people would say that to me when I was at work, and they understand I'm a devotee. They say, well, so you don't eat meat, you don't drink or smoke, or you don't have sexual relationships, you don't like gamble or anything like that. And, like, what do you do? Like, what do you do to enjoy yourself? Like, these are all the things that they think are essential to enjoying life. So most people think like that. Then of course we have to weigh that up. If I'm not doing any of those things, then what am I actually going to do that's going to be beneficial to me? Like, how am I going to find some juice in my life, some rasa, some reason for being? Like, when I was younger, I was very much interested in Buddhism, but that's a very dry thing. You see that I did attend the monastery. There's a monastery in Wales where they have Buddhist monks there, and I was quite near to where I lived, and I'm like a train ride or a bus ride, and I would go there sometimes. And the monks in the morning, they're sitting doing their meditation, and the abbot, he comes around, he's got a big stick, and if anyone falls asleep, he whacks them on the back, like to wake them up, And I remember thinking, boy, this seems like it's really austere, like, what are they getting out of this, that they're living this kind of life. And I was, teenager, I just wanted to enjoy my life and everything, but still something inside me said there must be something more to life. So, yeah, it is kind of a dry thing. And all of this practice, sadhana, everything, can be a dry thing if there's no prospect of something joyful underneath all of that. So when we come, we weigh all those things up. Like, people say, oh, I could never give up all those things. Like, they're so important in my life. But, like after 40 years, not even after 40 years, after some time, you realize none of that, they weren't very important, those things anyway, That's not what defines me as a person, or any of those things. But there does come a point in our spiritual life, or there should come a point in our spiritual life, when we understand that our practice of Krishna consciousness isn't about benefiting ourselves, it's about satisfying Krishna. And of course, the satisfaction of Krishna means to satisfy Guru and Vaishnava. And that's actually what our raison d'etre should be. Not like how much it's going to benefit me, or how much I'm enjoying it, or, all of these things. But what can I do to contribute to the satisfaction of Lord Krishna? Really, it seems like an impossible idea. Krishna's in Vrindavan with his associates, then what am I going to do that's going to contribute to his satisfaction that's not already being done much better by all of his associates and, boyfriends, girlfriends, the Devashis, so on. They've already got that covered, like to the max, they've got that covered. Then what am I going to do that's going to contribute to that? But believe me, there is meant to be a place for you within that, because that's why you exist. Krishna didn't create any of us just to suffer in this material world. He created us for a life of ecstatic joy in his company eternally in the spiritual realm. It may be inconceivable to us, like, where am I going to fit in there? You know, Guru Maharaj said, not first rank servitor. That's already gone, you know, like Radharani, Jashoda, Nanda, the coward, you know, those, we're not going to become them. That's already going on there. And he said, so not first rank or second rank or even maybe third rank, but somewhere there is some contribution for us to make to the satisfaction of Krishna. So it's not that Krishna's satisfaction is static also. That's all ever increasing. So if that means it's ever increasing, then there's always capacity for more. So that means there's some place for us to contribute to that. We may not understand what that is. We may not be able to conceive what that is. But it is our purpose, our real purpose is for that. And however that may be, however far removed that may be, once we have that connection, substantially, we will be fully satisfied and fully, what's the word? Jai. Fully fulfilled in our being. More than we can ever imagine. You know, just one drop of that will be more than we can even digest. And that's actually what Krishna Prema is. It's that ecstasy that comes from contributing to the satisfaction of Krishna. And even that in itself isn't the end. We read in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu how Daruka's Krishna's chariot driver. And sometimes he has the service when Krishna's sitting on his throne in Dwarka, he has the service to fan Krishna. And sometimes when he's fanning Krishna, he becomes so overwhelmed with Krishna Prema that he can't hold the fan anymore, he drops it. Then when that happens, he actually curses that Prema. Oh, because it means I can't serve Krishna when I'm in that condition. I'm not able to serve Krishna. So I don't want it, if that's what it means. Only the satisfaction of Krishna. That's the only thing that I'm interested in. So this verse of the Shikastakam, that is the epitome of this idea, or ideal rather. The ideal. Na danam na janam na sundarim kavitam ba jagadisha kamaya. Mama janmani shure bhavatad bhaktir huituki toye. So this is our ideal. We may not be in that position. So when we say, I don't want these things, that may not be fully the truth, in as much as we do want those things. We do want things that are going to give us some stimulation, make us happy, you know, like, what does he say here? Wealth, followers, beautiful women, and salvation. That is dharma, artha, kama, moksha. We do want wealth, because we think that with wealth we'll become, you know, the life will be easier for us. And we do want followers, as Guru Maharaj is pointing out, followers doesn't just mean, you know, like adoring fans or something like that, but followers means facility to enjoy. You know, like the things of this world. We have facility for that. Like when we were coming back from Thailand recently, Paramananda Prabhu, he arranged our flight back. We were just discussing this on the way here. He arranged our flight back from Chiang Mai to Bangkok, where we get our connection to London. And bless him, he got us first class tickets on that plane. This is a 1.5 hour trip. A small airline, you know. It's not like a big jumbo jet or anything, small airline, but we're in the first, I've never been on first class before, in the first class compartment. Like, we're the only people in there. There's no other people in the first. And the air hostess comes up, and it's a Vietnamese airline, you know. So the Vietnamese lady, she comes up and like with folded hands, like, I'm your attendant. Anything you need, you just ask me, you know, like, and we have all these things for you, and you know, like, and you start and you feel like, wow, this is great. And this is what it means when Guru Maharaj says followers, or when Mahaprabhu says followers. It means like these kind of facilities that are there to make your life more enjoyable. So we want that. Beautiful women means that, you know, you want to be attractive to the opposite sex, you know, when we, you know, why do we do all this grooming and everything, you know, like, that's still within us. We look in the mirror, we want to look our best. Why, you know, we want to dress our best. We want all of these things. The reality is that's still within us. And of course, salvation. We want to be free from, you know, birth and death and all of these things in the world. No one can say they don't want those things, except those who are fully surrendered to Krishna, because that's not important to them. What's important to them is the satisfaction of their Lord. And so, you know, then Bhaktivinoda says, if that means I'm born as a bird or a beast in the future life, all of these things, that's okay, as long as I'm connected with you somehow. Which, however, according to my karma, whatever that situation may be, that's all okay, as long as somewhere in the mix there, my connection with you is there. That's what I want. I don't want to all of those things. So really, although those things are within us, the desire for those things are within us, our higher self aspires for something more than that. And that's our ideal. We know we're not free of the glamour of this material world. Most of the time we look at it and we believe it entirely. We think it's all real. We can't. And so, you know, we can't be unaffected by it. But in the moments of clarity that we may possess, now and again by the grace of Guru and Krishna, we can understand that our higher self doesn't aspire for the things of this world at all, because we've come into connection with something greater than that, and that is the service of Krishna. And we understand that our ultimate satisfaction will only come through that, not through anything else, not through anything of this material world. Because we are by nature spiritual, then nothing material can satisfy us, gross or subtle. It will never satisfy us. Only the spiritual reality can satisfy us. And, you know, that also may be vague. Yes, we're spiritual by nature, yes, but that's also vague. But Mahaprabhu has given a more defined explanation of that. We are the eternal servant of Krishna, Krishna Nitya Das, and we are his Tatastha Shakti. That means, you know, we can adapt to this material world or we can adapt to the spiritual world. Both possibilities are there. And Veda Ved Prakash, we are part of him, but at the same time eternally different from him, because we are infinitesimal and he is the infinite. And always he is the master and we are the servant. So all of these things are integral to our understanding of what is spiritual life, what is spirit, what is to say I am spiritual by nature. That doesn't mean anything unless you understand what the spiritual reality is. So if that spiritual reality we can understand means the exclusive servants of Lord Krishna and his devotees, then we'll be we're on our way. We're on our way. So, in spite of everything else, in spite of everything else, we can only progress towards our goal, and not to allow those things to cow us down, if you like, that to become overwhelmed by those things. They're still there. The attachment to this material world must be there. Otherwise, how would we be able to function? We're not like, Jad Bharat, just lying in the road, waiting for some food to come into our mouth. We're people who are doing some action in life. We can't avoid that. So then we have no choice but to continue. But behind all of that, we can understand that this is not our goal of life. Our goal of life is something more than that. And whether that's, in good time or in bad, difficult time, that we should never sacrifice our ideal. Our ideal should always be at our front. And Guru Maharaj says that a man is judged by his ideal. So if his ideal is high, then we can understand he's a person of high type. And we should not compromise with our ideal. We may understand that, we're in illusion. But still our ideal, we're not going to surrender to that illusion. We want to surrender to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. And that's called ashray. We have to take shelter of the Lord. And while taking shelter of the Lord, He will protect us from everything. We're vulnerable souls. We are not able to protect ourselves. We're like Guru Maharaj mentions in here, like a baby. When anyone comes to attack a baby, he can't defend himself. Doesn't even understand how to defend himself. But his guardians are there to protect him. Mother is there, father is there. They're there to protect the baby. So when our devotional, development is like baby-like, small when we are beginners, then Maya is always coming to attack us in so many ways. We're not able to defend ourselves. We can't. If that attack comes, we have no way of defending ourselves. We don't even know how to defend ourselves. But our guardians are there. And although they may be unseen to us, they're watching over us. And if we do not compromise with our ideal, they will protect us. So even when we're in times, actually that was something that Martin Luther King said, that a test of one's character is not when you live in times of comfort and convenience, but when you live in times of inconvenience and difficulty. That's when your character is really tested. Do you actually believe in what you're saying? Are you actually just giving lip service to the creed that you profess, or is it really part of who you are? And that you'll only understand when the world comes to test you. And we can all say that some trial or tribulation must come in our life. Some very unhappy circumstance definitely will come in everybody's life, or more or less. Because it's the very nature of this world. Then how we will face that will be the test of our faith, the test of our understanding. So Guru Maharaj says, is that just lip deep, or is it real? Has it actually become part of who you are? So we want that. Actually, we want that. Although, maybe cautiously we want that. But, nobody invites calamity into their life. But Kunti Devi does. Kunti Devi, she prays to the Lord. When everything's good and, there's no difficulty, we don't really think about you. But, when we're facing adversity, we have no other choice but to surrender to you. So bring the calamity more and more, so we can take shelter of you more and more. This was Yudhisthira Maharaj's, when Narad, in Brihad Bhagavatamritam, Narad's going from devotee to devotee to see, like, who's the topmost devotee of Krishna? And, going from one to another, and they're all deferring. No, I'm not really a devotee, he's the devotee. And then so, I think it's Hanuman. When Narad comes to Hanuman and he says, oh, your devotion to Ramchandra is so great, and like all of this, and he says, yeah, but that's like a dream to me now. I can't even always remember that. And he said, but the Pandavas, they live with Krishna like as their family member. They're really the devotees of the Lord, the topmost devotees of the Lord. So then Narad approaches the Pandavas, and he says, oh yeah, you are the greatest devotees of Krishna. He's like not just your bosom friend, but your family member, and so many things. He's there always with you. And Yudhisthira Maharaj says, please, Narad, don't tout us as the example of Krishna's devotee, because our whole life has been one calamity after another. And if people think, that's what it means to be a devotee of Krishna, then no one's going to want to be a devotee of Krishna. And we see right from the beginning, so much calamity in their life when they were, growing up with the Kauravas, Duryodhana and co. They're always giving trouble to the Pandavas, and finally they made that house of lac, and sent them there and burnt it down to try to kill them. And that was one thing. Then they gave Bhimsena a poisoned cake. He eats that cake, falls into the river. By the will of Providence, the snakes in that river bite him, and that poison of the snakes is the antidote to the poison in the cake. Go figure that one. But anyway, so there's that. Then there's so many things. So finally the battle of Kurukshetra. Kunti Devi, she finds out that Karna is actually her son. As a great tumultuous thing in the drama of that. Just at the beginning of the war, and she goes to him and pleads, don't kill Arjun, and he says, when he finds out that she's his mother and everything, he says, Mother, don't worry. When the battle is over, you'll still have 5 sons. And she goes, oh, it's okay. But what she forgot was she has 6 sons. So what Karna's saying is, it's going to be me or him. One of us is going. Anyway, so many events that took place, that Yudhisthira's he's putting his hand over the mouth of Narad, saying, if people think that that's what it means to be a devotee, that you have to go through so much trial and tribulation and so many calamities in your life, who's going to want to be a devotee of Krishna? But Kunti Devi, the opposite of that, she's saying, bring that on. I want that more and more, because then I remember you. So this is actually the fact. When everything's good, we only give a passing thought to the Lord. Like tomorrow, if one of us wins, I don't know about tomorrow, but sometime, one of us wins the national lottery. I don't know. There's not much chance if you don't do the national lottery, but most of us don't. So that some fortune come to you like that. And it'd be like, whoopee, and maybe you're like, thank you, Krishna. But that's about it, right? That it's not like number one on your agenda isn't going to be like, how will I use this to serve Krishna? Number one will be like, where am I going on my holiday now with the family? And we're going to enjoy, we're going to live it up. Everyone's going to be thinking like that. And maybe, somewhere down the list is, if there's something left over, we can give that for the service of Krishna. But when we're in, there used to be a saying during the First World War, when they're all living in those soldiers, they're living in this trench warfare. So they're, on the battlefield, both sides, they're living in they make these trenches, and then at some point they come out of the trench, and then they'll try and go forward, a few hundred yards or whatever, and then they'll dig another trench, and this way they progress towards the enemy lines. Meanwhile, the enemy's trying to shoot them down. They're also trying to make progress the other way. And down in those trenches, it's filthy, there's rats, there's disease, cholera, there's all kinds of horrible things, and they're living in that. So they used to say during the First World War, there are no atheists in the trenches. Because everyone's down there, they're all praying, please Lord, get me out of this, And back home, the wives and the mothers, they're all praying, please bring my son, my husband home safely from this hell. So no atheists in the trenches. And that's the fact, when we're in trouble, then our natural inclination to turn to the Lord comes out. When everything's nice and happy and everything, not so much. So, in our conditioned state, we want to try to remember the Lord in all circumstances, good or bad. And that's coming to us anyhow. Good or bad will come to us whether we want it or not. Krishna says in the Gita, Matra sparshas tukunteya, shito sha shukaduka, agama payano nityas tam titikshasya bharata. Which means, shuk and duk, happiness and unhappiness or distress, it's coming to you anyway. Everyone wants to be happy. Nobody wants to be suffering or unhappy. But suffering and unhappiness is coming to you, whether you want it or not. It's going to come. And we know it usually comes at the most unexpected time, Everything seems to be going great, like all my plans are coming to fruition. I'm happy. I'm singing zippity-doo-dah as I'm walking down the road, and then bam, out of the blue, something comes to hit you. Something you didn't expect. Some terrible calamity in your life. I didn't want that, but it came. Why? Because, Krishna says, because it's like the happiness and distress, they're like the winter and summer seasons. They just come. They come. And all you can do is tolerate that. That's what he advises Arjuna. Tolerate it. That means don't get too carried away in the good times. Good times are coming, but don't get so carried away that when the bad times come, you can't deal with that. And don't get so overwhelmed by the bad times that you can't live your life anymore, that you become so distressed that you can't function in the world anymore. No, just tolerate it. Like, be equal. Happiness, distress, success, failure, take it all to be the same. This is Krishna's advice to Arjuna, because it is ultimately all the same. So that's why Saraswati Thakur says, nothing you can do to prevent your karma from happening. It's going to happen. And nothing you can do to make it happen. If it's your due, it's going to happen. Good or bad, it's going to happen. So don't waste your time endeavoring for that. Rather, utilize your time for cultivating your spiritual life, your inner life, for developing your relationship with Hari Guru and Vaishnava. Utilize your time for that, and your soul will reap the benefit. Because whatever you do in this world, it's only for now. It's not going to give you any ultimate benefit. It's only for now. Whatever you do, whatever, empire you create, 50, 100 years from now, no one will remember. It doesn't matter. It's all useless. So everything in this world ultimately comes to zero. Good or bad, it all comes to nothing ultimately. Because whatever we do, it's all gone. At the time of death, all gone. Then, Srila Prabhupada, he used to say, it's like taking a check to the bank It may have like thousands of zeros on it. But when you give it to the bank teller, he's only going to give you 0 for it. Because it's just maybe thousands of zeros, but they're all 0. But if you just put 1 in front of those zeros, then how valuable that becomes. So he would say, Krishna is that one. If you put him in front of everything, at the front of everything you do in your life, then everything you do in your life becomes valuable, becomes important, becomes significant. If Krishna is in the center. And everything we do, actually this is the essential teaching of Bhagavad Gita. Whatever you do that as an offering to me. And then it becomes spiritualized. The same thing, that's the difference between matter and spirit. It's not what it's physically made of, that makes it material or spiritual. It's its utilization that makes it spiritual or material. The same thing. You can drive your car to the nightclub, to enjoy a night out with your friends and some drinks and meet the girls and whatever it is you do. Totally material endeavor. But that same car, you can go in the car, go to the temple, serve the Krishna, serve the Vaishnavas. Then you can say, actually, by its utility, that car has now become spiritual. Because it's being used for a spiritual purpose. Because ultimately, material world, spiritual world, it's all the energy of the Lord. It's ultimately all spiritual. It's just a matter of application. If we try to use it in the spirit of exploitation, it's material. Or if we reject it in the spirit of renunciation, that's material. But if we try to, rather than seeing everything as something that we can exploit for our own benefit, if we try to see everything as the ingredients for the service and worship of our Lord, then everything becomes spiritual. It's just a matter of adjusting your consciousness. That's why Guru Maharaj would say religion means proper adjustment. So how we relate to everything in this world, if it's in relation to Krishna, everything becomes spiritual. And if it's not in relation to Krishna, then everything's mundane. Whatever it may be. This is kind of a secret. And this is important for us to understand. And important for us to understand that actually our purpose in life is the satisfaction of Krishna. And by satisfying him, we also become fulfilled. And everything that we do outside of that will ultimately be a cause of suffering. And we don't just say that to frighten people or anything, oh, this material world is a place of suffering, all these things, you should be afraid. We should be afraid of this material world, but really it's all about how we interact with the world. And when we are thinking that it's all for us, then we are mistaken. But when we think that everything is meant for the satisfaction of Krishna, then our life becomes worthwhile, gives us actually something worth living for. Just put Krishna in the mix somewhere and see the difference in your life. Srila Guru Maharaj says, you need to practice your hand to give. And even if you're a miser and you don't like to give anything, give something worthless. Like just tear up some paper and give that, but make your hand practice to give something. Then when you run out of all the worthless things, now it's your habit, right? Habit becomes our second nature. So my habit now is always to give something. Something to the sadhu, something to the temple, something like that. Then anything that's worthless, all gone. So now, but you cannot stop to give. Then you have to give what you consider to be valuable. You will have to give that. And then when that's all gone, and the only thing you have left is yourself, then you'll have to give yourself. And that's what Krishna wanted right from the beginning, was that you'll give yourself. So practice the hand to give. Like, just practice it. Make it your habit to try to serve Krishna, to give something to Krishna. No, don't expect anything in return to that, for that. Anything mundane. The prayer of the devotee is, if I serve you as some recompense or remuneration for that, my prayer is that you give me more service. And not just more service, but greater capacity for me to serve. That has to go along with it, you know? Okay, so that you're not overwhelmed by too much responsibility, give me more capacity. I said to Srila Gurudev once, when he came here, and I said, Maharaj, why don't you put somebody else in charge here and I'll serve them? I'd be more happy to do that, you know? And he said, why, Prabhu? And I said, because I think that, you know, like, this service requires, like, Hanuman to do this service. Some, like, great devotee like Hanuman to do this service. And, you know, so put a Hanuman in charge and I'll serve him. I'm happy. And Gurudev, he looked at me and he said, you think I cannot make you Hanuman? I said, okay, Maharaj. I have to say I'm still waiting for that. But so, you know, that's the thing, that not only will the Lord give you more service, he'll also give you corresponding capacity to be able to do that service. And that's our prayer. We don't want anything in return. We don't want dharma, artha, kama, moksha. We're not interested in that, ultimately. You can't get that anywhere. But Krishna Prem, that is what we need. Is that the soul needs its own food, and the food of the soul is prema. So, you know, Guru Maharaj saying how the Lord is Satchidananda Vigraha. And it's also said that we as individual souls, we're also Satchidananda, right? But we can say, okay, Sat, that means eternal. We can agree, yes, I'm eternal. And Chit, I'm conscious. But Ananda, where is Ananda? That we are lacking. We have the potential for Ananda, but we are not finding any Ananda in this world. So, Sat-Chit, yes, but Ananda? Then Guru Maharaj would say that Anandam is the food of the soul. The soul needs its own food, and that is Anandam. Without that, the soul cannot thrive. Anandam. And Anandam only comes from Krishna. That kind of Anandam that will satisfy the soul. Satchidananda. So Srila Gurudev would say, everyone wants to be happy in this world, but how can they be happy if they ignore happiness himself? Happiness is a person, that is Krishna. He is happiness. Happiness personified. If you ignore him, there's not possible to be happy, really, ultimately. Only a shadow of happiness. But happiness exists as a person, and if we try to give ourselves to him, naturally, happiness will come within us. Real happiness, substantial happiness. That is Anandam. And Anandam is what is necessary for us to be fully fulfilled. And that is the goal and the gift of Krishna consciousness for everyone. That is available to everyone. And not for much, actually. Only just try to give yourself to Krishna a little bit, something. And by chanting his holy name with humility, tolerance, honor to all, and not expecting any honor for ourselves, we are guaranteed a good result. Mahaprabhu Chaitanya Dev, he has come to distribute this to the world. And we are all the benefactors of that. And we're also trying to share that as much as possible with everybody. So today we'll finish here. Unless anyone has a question. How's Danista? Is she okay?
Still the same. We've got the
Monitoring.
no, she's at home.
She's at home.
Yeah.
All right. Praying for her. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. Rupanuga Guru Bhagya ki jai. Jai Sri Chaitanya Saraswata Acharya Brinda ki jai. Saparshada Sriman Mahaprabhu ki jai. Shri Harinama Sankirtan ki jai. Anitai Gaur